Maverick fans. Welcome to another edition of the Mavpuckcast. Thank you for tuning in. Episode 3 of the new season for Maverick Hockey. John's here with me. Got a good episode for you. We're going to talk some rankings and some expectations from the season. We finally saw the Mavericks on the ice officially, so we have some insights from that. John, how you doing tonight?
I I am tired tonight. I fell asleep about a half hour before we were supposed to do this. I'm just going to rest my eyes for a little bit, and I was sound asleep when Bridget came down and woke me up. So bear with me here. Hopefully, I talk coherently, but it's crazy to think the season hasn't even started yet, and we're already on our third episode. Normally, we start the Mavpuckcast for the season after the first exhibition game that we have in early October, but here we are, 3 episodes in. Last week, Bridget had a wonderful interview with NCHC Commissioner Heather Weems. If you haven't watched that yet, you can find that on our YouTube channel, and of course, it's embedded on Mavpuck.com, where it's very easy to find. So be sure to watch that. And thank you to Heather Weems for coming on. That was very, very nice of her. She had a lot of wonderful information for fans, Jason.
She did, yeah. It was a really good interview, very insightful. So, yeah, if you haven't checked that out, you really need to go listen to that after you listen to this episode.
Absolutely right, because Jason and I love doing our annual NCHC preseason rankings and predictions. We'd also like to thank our founding members this season on the Mavpuckcast. This is your last chance to sign up at the founding member level on Mavpuck. You have until October 1st to sign up for that special $12 rate for the year. One payment gets you 1 year of membership. That's $1 per month. It's a fantastic deal. We have more than 50 founding members so far, so thank you. You'll see the members if you're watching on YouTube right now, scrolling as we are talking. Our founding members will also appear in a scroll at the end of each episode, so you can watch it after you hear Jason and I do our analysis. And what you get for that $12, you get weekly emails with series previews, links to our latest content throughout the season, and ticket and giveaway reminders. Of course, you get supporter credit on the Mavpuckcast, and the funding allows us to produce extra content during the season where we profile new players like Jason and I did in our season premiere, articles and podcast episodes talking about the new players and some of the recruits, items like our printable roster that we had for the recent inter-squad scrimmage event, highlighting the new players, and special episodes like Bridget's recent episode with NCHC Commissioner Heather Weems. After October 1st, there will be a new entry-level membership with these same benefits, but it will be $18 a year instead of that special $12 a year for that 12-month membership. So it will be $1.50 per month instead of $1 a month. So you want to get in on that, and you want to get in on that special founding member title, Jason. I know you and Jolene did.
Get it while it's cheap, right?
I mean, $1.50 a month is still cheap, but yeah, we started promoting the founding member level last April. It was set to last for 6 months from April 1st to October 1st. So thank you very much to all of those people who have supported. It means a lot. All of us work hard to bring you informative content each season on the Mavpuckcast. So we really appreciate it. So thank you very much. In addition to signing up for a Mavpuck.com membership, the annual Wear Black Give Back campaign for UNO is October 8th through 9th. It's 24 hours of giving, noon to noon on both of those days. It's a month earlier this season, Jason. Normally it's early November, so we have some time to promote it. So this kind of snuck up on us. So it's a good thing we started doing podcast episodes earlier than normal.
Right?
Yeah. It's the 5th year of this event, which is UNO's annual Giving Day. Last year's event raised $761,285, which was a record The goal this season is 5,000 individual donations. There are some hockey specific goals again this season. And those hockey specific goals are hoping to raise $25,000 minimum for the program. If you would like to learn more, visit givingday.unomaha.edu. I have my ambassador items because Bridget and I are ambassadors. So I'm wearing the Wear Black, Give Back t-shirts. We've got a foam finger again this year, Jason.
Ooh.
Yeah, I know. My niece Scotland wants this. We have a Durango magnets. We've got a little Wear Black, Give Back decal. Okay.
Okay.
We've also got this deal where we can decorate Durango with various college and collegiate athletic related items. So I'll have to work on that after we get done recording this episode. So it's a great deal. I know that you and Jolene have been involved and have donated to this event over the years. It's nice to get back to UNO.
It is. It's always a good opportunity, and I like these donation days on for not just UNO but for other organizations and stuff. It's nice the Giving Omaha days and things like that. It just seems like it really puts people in a good mood and in good spirits, and I like going in on a positive attitude. So hopefully, UNO can hit all their marks, and we'll certainly be there supporting and helping them do that.
Absolutely right. So be sure to follow us on all of our socials because we will definitely be promoting that on both of those days and keeping track of how the goals are doing for UNO hockey in particular. So, Jason, as you alluded to up front at the beginning of the episode, we got to see the team in action for the first time. It was the annual Open House and Team Scrimmage on September 22nd. You and I and fellow fans got to enjoy a team scrimmage. It was a 1 period and 1 5-minute 3-on-3 period. And then afterwards, there was a skate with the Mavs on the ice and an autograph session in the concourse. There was apparel on sale from vendors like Lawler's Custom Sportswear and the UNO bookstore. Jason, what did you think getting that first little glimpse of the new players on the ice and how they were meshing with our veterans during that inter-squad scrimmage for UNO?
It was nice being back at Baxter. I will say that to start. Like, it's amazing how much you miss it until you set foot back inside and you're just like, oh, I'm home again. So nostalgia feeling, loved that, loved being back at Baxter. So that was good. I was glad the university did this. It's a good thing for fans. It's not the hype of a game day. It's not all the pizzazz and shows. So it's a good chance for fans to kind of connect, and then they do the skate on the ice afterwards. So that was good. I don't know that you can glean too much. I mean, obviously they're playing against each other, so they're probably not going to go head hunting on anything. And we did have a little bit of a scrum there, which was kind of fun to watch. I'm sure that was a little bit of a jest kind of thing between a couple of the guys, but I don't know if we should call them out or not, or just let them slide through. I think the biggest thing that I gleaned from it, and I'd be curious what you thought, John, but like you noticed a lot of the veteran guys paired together. Like there was a lot of one new guy, one existing Mav, and then like two of the new guys, and then like two existing Mavs, and like one new guy. So I think they're clearly trying to find some chemistry and find some fit with what did we say, 14 new players coming into the Mavericks this year.
Yeah, absolutely right. And the thing that was kind of fun was the guys that were really impressive. Charlie Lurie, a guy we didn't hear a lot from during his freshman campaign at UNO, transfer player from Wisconsin, Sam Stang, looked really good during that. And yes, there was a little bit of a scrum, and I don't know how much of it was theatrics between Brock Bremer and Jacob Slipek. It reminds me of the second season of UNO hockey, the 98-99 season. There was a inter-squad scrimmage before the season for folks who donated to UNO hockey, and Bridget and I were there. And forwards Billy Puglisi, who I know you're familiar with, and forward Derek Reynolds got into it during that inter-squad scrimmage, and that particular one got really heated between those two guys. And I remember we were kind of joking. before that season, wow, the Mavs are so tough. They get into fights with each other. This wasn't anywhere near like that, but it was kind of fun to watch. And I know my niece, Scotland, enjoyed it.
Yeah, you see it in the NHL with they got the rookie camps and the training camps going on and stuff, and you'll see guys kind of, really get at it in those types of things because they're really fighting for a roster spot. You don't typically see that as much in college hockey, and we had a chance to talk to some of the guys, and I actually asked them about that, and they laughed and jested and said, there might have been a little bit of seriousness to it, but at the end of the day, they're good friends. They're gonna, move on and still be supportive of each other or something. Sometimes it's just like it's just fun to kind of muck it up a little bit, we'll say.
That was a lot of fun for the crowd. Everybody enjoyed that. And this is just a great event. I know it's a lot of work for the UNO athletic department. I know it's extra time that the players have to dedicate to fan service that takes time out of their personal life, et cetera. But it means so much to us to get a chance to meet the guys and get to interact with them and with other fans before the season starts.
Yeah.
It's a nice little intro to the season, and we really had a great time. So thank you, UNO, for putting that event on. I hope it continues to be an annual tradition. Another preseason event that happened earlier this year than it normally does. Normally, this happens in November or early December. Is the first dinner with the Mavs event of the season. Happened September 24th. UNO Blue Line Club members had the chance to eat dinner with the team at Legends Sports Bar. We got to hear from Coach Mike Gabinet, his thoughts going into the season. We got to sit with fifth-year defenseman Aiden Gallagher, who transferred to UNO from Northern Michigan. I didn't know who might sit by us at the dinner, but I was really excited to sit by him because he played for 2 years at Michigan State, then 2 years at Northern Michigan. And boy, Bridget and I took multiple trips to both of those schools when UNO played there during our CCHA days back in the day. In fact, when Bridget and I went on our honeymoon in 2004, we actually went to watch UNO in a series at Michigan State. So we've been to Munn Ice Arena many times. He was telling me about some of the renovations that they've been doing there. He was talking about his time up in the Upper Peninsula playing for Northern Michigan in Marquette, Michigan. It was a lot of fun to interact with him. And I was really glad that we had done our episode where we had profiled all the newcomers because I knew some tidbits about him. And I think that got the conversation going, and just a really nice young man. It's nice to talk with those veteran players who've kind of been through the fires of NCAA hockey before. And, he's a little banged up now. He's nursing an ankle injury, but I'm excited to see him in the lineup. Jason, who did you and Jolene and your in-laws have the opportunity to sit by at the dinner with Mavs?
Yeah, we had Sam Stang and Captain Nolan Krenzen were at our table, and I sat shoulder to shoulder right next to Ellis. That was really interesting. Talked to him a lot, about the team and how guys are coming together and what the season's looking like and how they're feeling. And I just love how forthcoming the players are with information. I've talked to guys before, and sometimes it's the old analogy of pulling teeth. It's just really hard to get any kind of information out of them. But it seems like the years of attending these Blue Line Club dinners and stuff, they like to talk, different things. Found out the guys like watching a lot of football. So that's kind of interesting. Apparently there's a rivalry. As you can imagine, a lot of the Minnesota kids are Vikings fans, and the Vikings play the Packers. And so Stang was saying that he's a little bit of an odd man out this week, so we'll see how that goes.
It's great to get a chance to know the players a little bit better, that you spend 6 months every year cheering for, week in, week out. And certainly we spend a lot of time talking about these players, so it's nice to get to know what they're like beyond their play on the ice. So very, very cool. Glad you got a chance to chat with Noah Ellis. I got his military appreciation jersey in the jersey auction last season. So a really good young man, and I'm wishing him all the best, and I hope he has a great season. So, turning to our annual tradition, our preseason NCHC predictions and rankings. Jason and I look forward to doing this every year. Uh, Throughout the season, it gives us a kind of a barometer to see how well we picked and where the teams are at. In a conference like the NCHC, when you get past those kind of top two teams in the conference, it's going to be very, very interesting to see what goes on. 9 teams this year. Of course, Arizona State is the new member in the conference. In a couple seasons here, St. Thomas is going to join the conference and even it out at 10. So it just adds to the unpredictability. Jason, let's start off with our pick for ninth place in the NCHC. This one might not be too much of a surprise, but who do you see finishing in last place in the conference?
I think last year this might have been the only one we agreed on, kind of thing. And it may be this year too. I got a feeling that there might be some with as tight as these teams are and having 8 of the 9 teams in the top 20 preseason rankings from USCHO. Yeah, I got a feeling we may not agree on a lot after this, but I got a feeling we agree on this one. I've got Miami still holding down the basement of the NCHC.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you on that one. They've got a new head coach this season in Anthony Noreen, who spent the last 7 years out at Kearney coaching the Tri-City Storm. He's 41. He also had stints at Youngstown in the USHL, and he coached at Orlando in the ECHL. I've watched some video with him here since he took the job at Miami. Seems like a really good guy. It's a tough road to hoe for him early on. Lost top point producers Matthew Barbolini and PJ Fletcher from last year's team. Yeah, yeah, it's gonna be a tough road to hoe for this team. And this Miami team in the early 2000s was terrific under Enrico Blasi in the old CCHA, but they've struggled. So it'll be interesting to see if Coach Noreen can turn this team around over the next few years, Jason.
There's a lot of challenges at that university right now, and it's just going to take time. And just maybe a bit of a long road back, but we'll see.
Absolutely. For a decade there, they were one of the premier programs in college hockey. So, Jason, turning to our eighth place team in the NCHC, who do you see finishing number 8 this season in the National Collegiate Hockey Conference?
This one might be a bit of a hot take. So I'll point out to our listeners and our viewers. We don't I specifically don't want to talk about these things. I know it might have annoyed John this week, but like I like the like I don't know who he's picking where and so we're not really prepped for this. So we'll see how much this shocks you, John. I've got Western at 8.
I'm not
Um,
I'm not shocked about that, Jason.
okay.
I went back and forth on this one, and Western's a team that lost a lot of those really talented forwards that they've been known for the last few years after last season. So there's a lot of question marks going into this season. So it is weird picking a team like Western Michigan that's been in the mix right there in the middle and top half of the conference the last few years in that spot in the conference, but there's just a lot of unpredictability. And I think this pick might surprise you, although I don't think it'll surprise you because I had already told you earlier in the week who I picked in eighth place. And you're like, John, stop telling me who you're going to pick. I picked Minnesota Duluth finishing in eighth place, which is a kind of a strange thing to pick a Scott Sandelin team that low, but last season didn't go according to plan. They had a lot of injuries. They were without the services of Dominic James last season. Duluth will miss leading point producer Ben Steves from last season, and they have 11 freshmen on their roster at Duluth this season. So what was your thought process putting Western Michigan in eighth place? Because I have them, and I don't want to jump the gun too soon, but I have them in seventh place.
Yeah, so I looking at it, it's like I have 1 and 2, and I have 8, and then the middle of it's like, I mean, even if you look at preseason rankings, right? You've got 15, 16, 17, 18. those are basically just teams that are exactly the same, and you're flipping coins to decide who goes where, right? So like a lot of this is nitpicking on what might be, and that's why we say like these are the way too early picks. These are the things like I don't know. I think something's going to happen, but any of these teams could be anywhere from hell. I could even see one of these teams going on a run and making two and threatening one of those top two spots. They all have the pieces of the puzzle to do that. So you look at intangibles, and for me with Western, the biggest thing is I was looking at their season last year. Their season kind of tailed off. They ran into some issues with some of the NCHC teams later in the season. I don't see anything coming in that tells me that that's gonna, right the ship. So I think they'll be talented. I think they'll win some games. But I have a feeling that when they get into the grind of the second half of the season where it's NCHC every night, I think that's when they're going to start to kind of dwindle out. And that's kind of my thought process going into this. You mentioned you have Western at 7, right? I've got the newcomers, ASU, at 7. And again, I think, it comes into the intangibles, right? They're an independent team that had what I would say is probably an easier run since they've come into the league. When you're a new team, you're playing anyone. Look at Augustana and St. Thomas. Those are two teams that are like, we'll go play anyone. We're the new guys here. We just want a chance, right? Now you're coming into a league, and you're not just coming into any league. You're coming into arguably the league in college hockey. And I just don't know. Like they're gonna have to show me that they can handle night in, night out, top 20 teams. And until they show me that they can handle it, I kind of got to figure that they're gonna get bested by Duluth and Colorado colleges and North Dakotas and Denvers and name them.
Yeah, exactly. Boy, it's interesting. You and I are just kind of close. The jumble's just a little bit different. One note on Western, a couple notes here on Western Michigan. Look, like I said, they're known for attracting talented forwards, but they lost a lot of scoring. They lost 5 skaters who combined for 184 points last season. And that to me is the biggest question mark. They are supposed to have a talented recruiting class. College Hockey News just today rated their incoming recruits as the number 5 recruiting class in the nation. But again, you just don't know in a conference like this how freshmen coming in for the first time playing NCAA hockey and NCHC hockey are going to perform. So, yeah, like I said, I had Western in 7th. I know you had Arizona State in 7th. Well, my 6th place team was Arizona State. It's going to be fascinating to see how this team does over the next few years. They do have depth, they are skilled, and they have a talented decor. They are an older team, and according to Coach Greg Powers, that is by design. A number of their veterans came back. They've got some players who transferred in for their 5th season. And I will say this, because I always point out players to keep an eye on. Freshman Cullen Potter for them. He's the only freshman forward on the team. He's labeled as an elite skater. He's only 17, but he comes to the Sun Devils from the U.S. National Development Program. And they've got some talented portal guys like Cruz Lucius, who transferred in from Wisconsin. So I picked them a little higher, mainly because I think it's their first season in the conference. A lot of those guys who came to the school as when they were an independent are going to be excited to finally get the chance to compete in the NCHC. And one of the things that the players told us at the dinner with the Mavs is that they were attracted to come to UNO as transfer students because they wanted to have an opportunity to compete in the best conference in college hockey.
The same way with all of these teams, including ASU, is they've got to make bank when they're out of conference. And then, if they can be over 500, watch out for them.
Absolutely. And the biggest question mark with them is now that they are a full-fledged conference team, will teams play them differently than they did when they were skating out there as an independent? And it could be a very different experience. Could be trial by fire for the Sun Devils this season. So, Jason, who did you have in 6th place? Since I had Arizona State there.
we're gonna round out our bottom four as being the same, just slightly off. I've got Duluth there holding down that spot. I think like I said, it's really simple for me. It's just Duluth has a pedigree. Like even with new guys coming in, they're usually a lot of Minnesota-born kids. They're usually top prospects. They're usually highly talented guys. Um, I know Sandlin recruits for, and he's talked about in interviews and stuff before about recruiting for chemistry and looking for guys that have played together before or play a similar style as someone who they played with, and so he's really like focused on that, and I think that's why in the past they've had some success with true freshmen. I've seen them have 18, 19-year-olds come in and have success that are not, first round draft picks that are going to be there for a year. So they have a track record, and I'm kind of banking on that. And the format of the NCHC, right? Like we've got overtime points, and we've got overtime losses and shootouts, and all these crazy like 1 point game things. Duluth is built to be that team that instead of losing a game, they get it to overtime and then lose it. So they're eking out points where, say, ASU loses in regulation to Denver. Duluth goes in there and steals a point or two or something in some overtime games, or wins one on a crazy thing in overtime type of thing. They're built like that. And so I think that's going to be, when you've got these teams so close together, I think that's going to be end up being the difference maker for me. So that's my thought process going into the season as to why Duluth is going to be in six.
Well, and you look, Coach Scott Sandelin enters his 25th season as head coach, really talented head coach, a lot of stability at the top of that program. So again, the key will be those 11 freshmen coming in, 7 forwards, 2 defensemen, and 2 goalies. College Hockey News, Jordan McAlpine's article rates their incoming recruiting class as the top recruiting class in the NCAA this season. And like you said, they got a lot of the best players out of the Minnesota high school hockey ranks. And I've said before, they can get some chemistry early and things can gel, they can do well, because DU last season had a lot of freshmen too. And by the latter stages of last season, everything had kind of come together, and they made that national championship run. So they're a hard team to bet against, and it was hard for me to put them in 8th place. And I'm sure I will be eating my words, because I'm sure Scott Sandelin will get them going. 5th place, Jason. Who did you like? Who did you have finishing 5th in the NCHC this upcoming season?
I had 3, 4, and 5 for me were 3 teams that seem to have a very similar story a little bit. So I really looked towards like history and schedules. I was diving pretty deep into who they had to play and when they were going to get them. Because like everyone plays the NCHC teams, but it's like, oh, they've got to play Denver later in the season when Denver is going to be better, right? Those types of things. I'm like, ooh, kind of knock on them type of thing. And a little bit, I will say, is a little bit of a bias, because I can't root for this team unless they're playing North Dakota. So I've got Cara College there. I think it's going to be close, I will say, but it's going to be like a 1 point thing. They're going to be 1 point out of a home ice playoff series.
That is a very, very interesting pick there. I did not have Colorado College, so I like the way you think. And obviously, Jason, growing up in Denver, a former DU season ticket holder, hard for him to pick that in-state rivalry with Colorado College. And boy, I'll tell you, Jason, you look at Colorado College, and as we both know, I think it starts and it ends with junior goaltender Caden Mbarico. He had a 2.4 goals against average last season and a .915 save percentage, and so he is one of the best goaltenders, not just in the NCHC but in the nation. And I think he's going to make a big difference one way or another for the team. So if they can keep him healthy, it'll be interesting to see where they land. But in the 5th spot, I had St. Cloud State. They do have some good returning players. Guys like Werner Miettinen, Tyson Gross, Barrett Hall will help form the nucleus of that team's offense up front. They also have grinders like junior Grant Ashawn. 5 freshmen on the team. Brent Larson was talking about his team at NCHC Media Day. He talked about how they're big and tall, which is interesting because sometimes on the bigger Olympic size ice sheet that St. Cloud State plays on, you want to have kind of some of those smaller forwards. So it'll be very, very interesting to see what happens. And in net for St. Cloud, it'll be a battle between sophomore Isaac Posh and Bemidji State transfer Gavin Enright. It's difficult to pick those Minnesota teams not finishing in the top half of the conference, Jason.
Which is why I didn't do that. So
So Jason didn't do that. So Jason, who do you have finishing at number 4? Our first team here in the finishing in the top half, the NCHC standings later on this season.
Oh, well, I've got our very own Omaha Mavericks sitting in that spot. I like the way they match up against teams. I'm hopeful for the new guys coming in and having some chemistry. I like that we got guys, like Israel's and Risk that came from the same place. There's a lot of what we've heard a lot over the last few days and weeks, talking to players and getting to interact with them is a lot of the like, oh, I played juniors with this guy, or I, played with him on this team, and or we were together here, and it's like I'm really hopeful that that solves the question mark that is chemistry and that. I think I like our goaltending crew. They've done coaching staff's done a great job of making it competitive, but not letting guys feel like you got no shot at things. I think they're going to be able to be balanced a little bit more than they were last year. I'm hopeful. And I like our defense. When we watch the scrimmages and stuff, their positioning was good. I'd like to see a little bit more puck movement, and some of that's coming from our forwards getting back, filling lanes and transitioning faster. And I think that'll come. And I'm just optimistic for goal scoring, and that's why I put him in the top half.
Well, I agree with you on this one. I had Omaha finishing in 4th place. Like you said, there's unknowns with, half the roster, those 14 newcomers coming to UNO, and sitting at that dinner with the Mavs. It was a very fresh experience there because a lot of new faces that we were interacting with. And you and I got a chance to chat with Harrison Israels and Brady Risk, and you talk about the play up front. And I really think the performance of those two players is going to be key into how our offense performs this season. I'll be interested to see how they mesh with veteran Mavericks like Tanner Ludke and Brock Bremer. And as you mentioned, Omaha's deep in nets. Simon Lacosi, obviously a rock between the pipes, and Kevin Radler. We got to see a little bit of him in the scrimmage. I'm glad we agreed on our team and where they're going to land this season, Jason. Who did you have in 3rd place in the NCHC standings?
Well, I'm willing to bet that I can guess who you have in 3rd. And I'm willing to bet you could probably guess who I have in 3rd now. I got St. Cloud. You kind of already did a really good analysis of them. The reason that I put them there is because of the size. There's a lot of talk about the guys not playing like they're outside their frame. There was a writer that talked about that. And I like, that's what I see. These are guys that can skate even though they're 6'4", right? And if you got a guy with a lot of open ice and that can fill that ice quickly by long strides, quick feet, good short-term movements, things like that, that can be really dangerous for teams. I think they'll have a huge advantage, home ice. The question mark for St. Cloud, I think, is going to be when you get into some of these grinder games away from home. How do they stand up against that? And so their key is going to be puck moving. If they can move the puck quickly, keep in space, they'll be a really dangerous team. That's the kind of team that, like, if the things go right for St. Cloud, this is a team that legitimately could be challenging for top 2 in the conference. And so I figured they're probably I'm going to just assume that they're going to be just outside of the top 2, but challenge.
One of my favorite road trips, by the way, in the NCHC. A lot of fun to go up and watch hockey in the Herb Brooks National Hockey Center. And yes, Jason can guess who I had in 3rd place. I had Colorado College. It'll be interesting. Wow, Jason expressing his disdain for Colorado College. I got to tell you, when we went out there for the NCHC playoffs last season, it was an interesting environment. On Saturday and Sunday nights, we sat next to a guy who proclaimed himself to be the barrel man of the Colorado College Tiger hockey team. And for those who don't know, Barrelman was a fixture back in the 70s and 80s at Denver Broncos football games. Very interesting sitting by those guys. He was not amused when UNO won that playoff series in 3 games. And like I said, Caden Mbarico in net, I think, is going to be the key. Junior forward Noah Laba, very talented skater for CC, was an NCHC preseason pick. I think the only unanimous NCHC preseason pick, if I recall correctly. Great at faceoffs, terrific defensive forward. And up front, 2 players that we talked about a lot last season that I really like. Sophomore forward Zachariah Wisdom and junior forward Gleb Veremyev, 2 of the great names in the NCHC and college hockey. Jason, growing up in Denver, is not happy with me putting DU's rival here in 3rd place, but I had to do it.
But you didn't. You didn't have to. You chose to.
I didn't have to, but I chose to. So that brings us to the number 2 spot in the NCHC. Jason, who did you like in 2nd place in the NCHC?
I say we know we're sitting here both on Denver and North Dakota, so it really just comes down to who puts who where. And I can't root for North Dakota. So I've got Denver at 1 and North Dakota at 2. I think a lot of people are probably high on Denver because of what they're coming off of. They're still a really young team. That's I think the biggest worry for me for Denver is guys that maybe not as motivated. But Denver's known for winning back-to-back national championships. So just gonna drop that bucket out there that I think they got a good road there, and everything will be a good game against them. But ultimately, it came down to I just cannot put North Dakota 1 no matter what. So I didn't.
I almost put North Dakota number 1, but I, like you, I had DU in 1st place and I had North Dakota in 2nd place this season. I think for North Dakota, the question is how they fill the shoes or skates of forwards Reese Gaber and Jackson Blake, 2 of the best forwards, not just in the NCHC, but in the NCAA last season. And, they certainly have a number of talented forwards returning, including former Maverick Cam Berg. But those 2 players, Gaber and Blake, accounted for 104 points last season. I also think in net, it's going to be interesting for North Dakota. They've got Hobie Hedquist returning. And they also have Arizona State transfer TJ Semptenfelter. I think I pronounced his name right. So that'll be interesting battle between those 2 in nets. They have 8 freshmen on the team this season. So it's going to be interesting. Again, they're North Dakota. They get the creme de la creme of recruits. So we know that they're going to be a strong team. And like you said with Denver, again, there are questions coming into the season. They still have a lot of young players. But David Carl, who got the head coaching job at 28 years old, he finds a way to get the guys motivated, Jason.
Seems to be rock solid as a coach. And, you always kind of expect things to kind of take a step back, and then they don't. And, that's kind of the sign of a good coach. And he seems to have that pedigree. But like you said, there are some big questions. Barons was one of their top defensemen. He's not there anymore. Can they handle injuries? I don't think they're as deep in net as probably half the teams in the NCHC. So, one injury at the wrong time to the wrong guy at Denver, and they could be vulnerable. So we'll see. Those are the intangibles that we don't know what's going to happen, and we can't predict here. And so I always try to take the positive approach that these teams all stay healthy all the way through. And I think you would share we hope that they do. So
yeah, exactly. And they do have some talented forwards returning. Forward Jack Devine, who had 27 goals and 29 assists last season. Forward Carter King, 15 goals, 19 assists. And one of the 2 Bouillon brothers is back. Z Bouillon, talented freshman last season. He had 6 goals and 19 assists. So they definitely have some talented skaters up front. And it'll be interesting to see how senior Matt Davis does in net. He had a 2.34 goals against average and a .917 save percentage. Last season, they had 11 freshmen and they won the national championship. So it's hard to bet against them. So it's going to be really interesting to see how things shake out this season, Jason. But we've got one more preseason pick, and Jason loves this pick, mainly because over the years, Jason has jinxed a team every time he picks them to win the national championship on our preseason prediction episode. So I'm interested to see who he has winning the national championship this upcoming season.
I think the easy pick for me would have been Denver with the back-to-back championships. I didn't want to go easy. I wanted to kind of like reach out there and say like who might shock the league a little bit, give some fans some fun. So I went pretty deep and said I picked Quinnipiac once before. Can't pick them again. So we gotta go deeper than Quinnipiac. Um, Cornell. I looked at Cornell and thought that might be the Providence kind of team that like comes out of nowhere and is just a pain in the butt to play against. Well coached, responsible guys play meat and potatoes hockey that I know you like. Not a whole lot of flash and dash, but they've got that pedigree. They play in a league that has talent, so they'll be tested throughout the season. But it's not a Big Ten team. It's not an NCHC team, that's looking at like getting beat up every week, right? I know a lot of people are hot on Michigan State. For me, the problem is you got Michigan State, Minnesota, and Michigan, right? And those 3 teams are going to have to play each other, and that's just going to wear you down come, the end of the season and stuff. And Denver, North Dakota, everyone else we talked about in the NCHC, like that's a long grind to get through the season in those premier leagues. And so my hot take for national champions, Cornell, and they probably won't even make the tournament this year.
It's always hard to know with those ECAC teams, but you're absolutely right. They sneak up on teams when NCAA tournament time comes around. So you talk about a program like Quinnipiac, led by Rand Pecknold, really talented and fun program to watch the last few years. So I like that pick. Jason, you always do a good job of being original. As you will remember, on like the first 4 seasons of the Mavpuckcast, I picked Minnesota Duluth to win the national championship every year. Now I picked them to finish 8th in the NCHC. So it would be kind of weird to pick them to win the national title, although I could do it. That does sound like something I would do. But I've got to be the boring pick this year, and I've got to pick Denver to win their 2nd national title back to back. And mainly it's because of that coaching staff. And again, it's not just David Carl. It's his 2 assistants, Tavis McMillan, Dallas Ferguson, both who worked together at Alaska Fairbanks back when UNO was playing in the CCHA, and they were our travel partner. Very, very talented recruiters. And then their goalie coach, former UNO goaltender Ryan Massa, who led UNO to the Frozen Four back in 2015. There's just a lot to like about that team. I've got to go with the boring and predictable pick and pick Denver.
I don't dislike your pick. How's that?
Okay, it's going to be fascinating to see.
I believe they already hold the title, the outright title for most championships. Is that correct? Yeah, they are. They're the outright lead with 10 and Michigan at 9. So Michigan might have some motivation here coming into the season to say like we gotta pull level back with Denver there.
As hard as it is for me to like Denver, I just cannot pick Michigan to win anything. I remember the weekend we spent in Ann Arbor at Yost Ice Arena, and it was not a lot of fun. So I'm just going to say it'll be interesting to see how that dynamic. Maybe, you know what, Jason? Maybe those 2 teams can meet each other in the national championship game. That would be
that would be exciting.
All right, turning to our first real game action of the season. We've got Wisconsin coming in for an exhibition. Mike Hastings leads that team. Boy, Mike Hastings has had quite a career as the head man in NCAA hockey. He really turned around the fortunes of that program up there at Minnesota State Mankato, and now he's trying to bring glory back to Wisconsin up in Madison. The game starts at 6:07 p.m. on October 5th. Saturday game should be a lot of fun. Prior to that game, UNO will officially dedicate the ice sheet in Baxter Arena to Mike Kemp, who was the first head coach in program history. He was hired in 1996. He coached until 2009. And after he stepped aside as head coach, was an associate athletic director until he retired earlier this year. Jason, what are you looking to see from UNO in this exhibition?
What they need to do is they need to find that chemistry. They need to figure out where their goal scoring is going to come from and what their lines are going to look like. I'm not confident that what we saw in the inter squad scrimmage is going to be, what we see in a game situation, but I expect that at least to start for, say, the first period against Wisconsin, like this is going to be who we expect to see against each other, playing with each other, and where those pairings come in, and D progressions and things like that. I think they really need to start figuring that out and be willing to say, like, if it's not working for the first period, let's try something new. It's a exhibition, no one cares. But now's really like game situation, game speed, game style. Now is the time to really see if what you think is going to work is actually going to work. I also want to see some cleanliness. Like teams early in the season, there's a lot of fumbled pucks and missed passes and things like that. If we're seeing a lot of that going into the season for UNO, that doesn't bode well for us. With 14 guys coming in, that's a hard thing to kind of button up in practices. So I'm really looking for them to take some steps forward and really, just really solidify the chemistry in the group and the efficiency of their play and their transition game.
Well, I'm excited to see him get some real game action under their belts. And like you, I'm excited to see how those 14 newcomers integrate with the returning veterans in our lineup and try to get a little bit of momentum maybe going into the icebreaker tournament out in Las Vegas the following weekend, because that will be their first non-conference action of the season. And as we know, every season, you and I talk about how important those non-conference games are in the pairwise rankings. So this is an opportunity to shake things out. Hopefully the coaches can figure some things out. And like I talk about all the time, meat and potatoes hockey, doing the little things right, going to be so important. So it's going to be exciting. I hope to see all of you guys who watch and listen to the podcast, all of our founding members out at that game on October 5th. It should be a lot of fun. It's exciting to get the season underway. Jason, what are your final thoughts going into the season?
I'm glad hockey's back. That's my thought. That's all I can think.
I am too. It's very exciting. It's going to be exciting to start the regular season out at that icebreaker tournament. And of course, stay tuned because Jason and I will be doing our in-game and post-game updates out there. Should be fantastic. And be sure to follow us on all our social channels so you can stay up to date on those updates. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, etc. And consider becoming a founding member. We really appreciate the support. But until next time, Jason, go Mavs.
Go Mavs.